Hello, everybody, and welcome to my very first live show on Facebook, coming at you from Thousand Oaks, California. This is Jeffrey Hoffer. I'm a divorce and family law attorney. Been practicing now since 1993, and in about 2 or 3 years ago, I was certified as a specialist by the State Bar of California's Office of Legal Specialization. That may not be too important to you, but I just wanted to let you know a little bit about who I am and a little bit about this show that we're doing today. I'm at home in Thousand Oaks. Part of the reason I'm home is because of COVID, and the other reason is it's Saturday, and I wanted to do somewhat of a casual show. There's a question and answer portion. If you want to post questions, please do so in the comments, or you can text me directly at area code 818-396-1105. And I would be grateful to answer your questions if you have any. So please feel free. There was a story that came out in the news a few days ago regarding the divorce of a famous couple. These two people have been married now. They were married for about 28 years, separated for 3, and then the husband recently died. These people you may be familiar with, Rick Ocasek and Paulina Poroskova. They, when they got married in the 1990s, they were somewhat of a power couple. Paulina is, or was, a very famous model, appeared in many editions of Sports Illustrated in the swimsuit edition. And Rick Ocasek was the lead singer for the Cars, one of my favorite bands when I was growing up. Both of these people figured prominently during my teenage years, one in records and one in magazines. And knowing a little bit about their divorce, reading in the press, is very intriguing. And this situation creates a myriad of things that we can talk about today. The first is, I don't know if you know this, but Rick Ocasek passed away while the divorce was pending. And in doing so, it created a big problem. So, and I want to get into that. Now, it would appear that this divorce did not happen in California. It did not occur here. It occurred in another state, because what Rick Ocasek was able to do was basically take Paulina out of his will. I guess he was upset with her at a particular time during their separation. And in the court documents, Rick stated, even if I should die before our divorce is final, Paulina is not entitled to any elective share because she abandoned me. Now, the question is can you do that in California? Can you, while you're going through a divorce, decide to change your will and get rid of your spouse? Can you do that? And if you believe yes, type yes, text me yes or no to either the comments portion of this or to the number that that number at the bottom of the display, 818-396-1105. You think that in California, while you're going through a divorce, that you can automatically change the beneficiaries of your will? I'd like to know what you guys think about that. Now, another issue that came up, which is really kind of amazing, and by the way, I'm going to come back to that answer in a little while. Another issue that came up, and it came up in the article, Paulina said that she regrets not signing a prenuptial agreement. And it was sort of taken out of context, and I don't really understand why Paulina would say something like that. However, during my next show, we're going to talk about prenuptial agreements in California. We'll go over them, and we'll go over what a bulletproof prenuptial agreement has in it, and why you may want one, and why you may not want one. Just depends on what perspective you're bringing to the marriage. So, having said that, let's go through some of these issues. I'd like to talk to you about a few of them because I think they're extremely interesting. The first is, what happens when your name is not on an asset of the marriage. For example, let's say two people get married and they purchase a house in one of the spouse's names. Does that, in the event of a divorce, does the house just go to the spouse whose name was on title and the other spouse is out of luck? What do you think of that? Is that yes, no, maybe? What do you think? Well, in California, community property is defined as property that's acquired during marriage, except by inheritance or by gift. So if you use funds that were earned during the marriage and purchase something, an asset, it's presumptively community, regardless of how it's titled. Now, in order to preserve the the so-called outspouse's interest in the asset, there are things that could be done. Like, for example, the filing of a lis pendens would be something that can be done. There's a lot of things, but you can protect your asset even if your name is not on it, and it still will be community property. Now, in the state that Rick and Paulina were divorced in, that may not be true, because it appears that Rick was able to just basically 86 Paulina out of the estate. And the article talks about how she struggled financially, greatly struggled financially since his death. So, can that happen in California? Can it happen that a spouse can write out the other spouse in a will, from a will, and basically leave that spouse without anything? It's a really good question, and I'll answer it shortly. Um, Other things that can happen in a divorce, as I said, when these people got divorced, they had three sons, all of who are adults today. Now, having knowing just human nature, how do you think the sons feel about their mother being shut out of their father's will and leaving her basically unable to support herself? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? See, even if the kids are adults, they're still your kids. And I think it's important. And by the way, this isn't a legal argument. This isn't anything legal, but it is important that your children know that both of their parents are being taken care of. It's a good thing. It's good for relations between parents and children. One of the rules that I like to talk about with my clients is that you should always put your children at the center when you get divorced, but don't put them in the middle. And what I mean by that is think about them first. Always think about them first, and don't make them leverage tools in your divorce. So if Rick Ocasek had thought, well, I'm very upset with Paulina right now for whatever reason, and I'm thinking about perhaps disinheriting her, but she is the mother of my children. She's the mother of my sons, and she does occupy a prominent role in their lives. And I do love my kids. I'm going to probably not disinherit her, because I don't want her to be dependent on other people. I don't want her to struggle financially, and I don't want her to potentially be homeless, because that could happen. This divorce also, had it gone to fruition, would have created a myriad of issues, because even though, especially in California, even though Rick Ocasek wrote her out of the will, um, the issue of spousal support probably would have been very prominent. Now, and the reason for that is Paulina Poroskova was a model, an actress back in the late 80s, early 90s. She is now 55 years old. She's probably not going to get the same type of work she got back then. Now, we can comment about whether or not that's right or wrong, whether it's sexist or not sexist, but that's really kind of the truth. But Rick Ocasek, his income, well, his income is the best kind of income that you can possibly get. It's residual income. Residual income is basically where you do one thing one time and get paid for it over and over and over again. So every time a Cars song comes on the radio, they get paid. Every time somebody purchases a song of theirs, they get paid. Same song that they performed one time, they get paid over and over and over again. That's really great income to have. Not very many people have it, but if you knew that you can access it, what would you do to get it? Because it's quite amazing. Now, let's say Rick Ocasek recorded a song before he was married to Paulina. And let's say that song created residuals for 30, 40 years. I mean, like, for example, the Candio album was recorded I think it was recorded in the mid to late 70s. It was about 10 to 15 years before he married Paulina Porskova. So all the songs, all the money that is generated from any of those songs on that album would be a separate property. If he recorded songs and music during the marriage, those songs would be community property, and any residuals created from those songs would be community property as well. Does that mean that Paulina's left out in the cold? In California, let's say Rick lived, and let's say she wanted spousal support from him. Well, no, she wouldn't, because that income, his separate property, would be available to consider for support for Paulina. It doesn't make sense to me how this divorce lasted 3 years and there was no spousal support payable from one party to another, or at least the issue didn't come up. It should have come up in some fashion, some context somewhere. The fact that it didn't might indicate that maybe Paulina wasn't served properly, okay? Or maybe there was a backstory that we don't know about. But for her to be left out in the lurch like that, I would say was kind of not the best thing in the world, given the fact that Rick had all this residual income and Paulina probably got paid once or twice for every shoot she did. And that was it. It was just sort of a one and done. So anyway, if you have any questions, please text them to 818-396-1105, or please post them in the comment section. I'm live on Facebook and on YouTube today, and I want to hear from you, please. So please please post your questions. I look forward to hearing from you, and I will answer them best I can. The other thing I want to talk to you about today is it's regarding this issue that we have regarding this divorce involving Paulina and involving Rick. Now, if we come back to, let's say Rick decides that he wants to give away all his bank accounts. And let's say the bank accounts were open during marriage. Can he do that? Well, in California, you can't. There are court orders that prevent you from doing so, but there's nothing practically preventing you from doing so. So even though there's an order that says you can't do it, there's nothing at the bank that says you can't do it. You could still potentially do it unless there's a freeze, and there's ways to freeze those kind of accounts. And if you want to know about that, please feel free to call or email me and I'll explain it to you. Maybe that's your situation. Maybe you want to talk about that. Maybe you have a spouse who seems to think that all the money that he or she earned belongs to him, whether it was earned during the marriage or not, and wants to take that money, and you're concerned about that. So anyway, please call me. We'll talk about that. We'll get to the bottom of it. In the event that Rick lived, how long do you think you'd have to pay Paulina? Any spousal support? Assuming, of course, that the income that he received is all residual, and all the income that she received was maybe a one-time model shoot back in the 1990s. What do you think? How long do you think you would have to pay it for? In California, the answer would be until party's death, remarriage of the supported spouse, or further court order. So if Rick dies or Paulina dies, spousal support would go away. So she doesn't get spousal support in California under the circumstances that are laid out. It would terminate upon Rick's death. But if he had lived, how long do you think he'd have to pay her for? I would venture to say probably for the rest of her life, unless she remarries. Back to the question that I had previously posed at the beginning of the show. I was talking about whether or not a party, asking whether or not a party can terminate or change beneficiaries on a will during a divorce case here in California. And the answer to that question is probably not. In fact, I would say about 99% the answer is no. And the reason why I leave that 1% out there is because, well, when a divorce case is initiated in the state of California, the summons has on the backside some orders that apply to everybody. They're financial orders, and they're called automatic temporary restraining orders, or ATROs, ATROS. And the ATROs prohibit parties from doing certain things during a divorce, absent a court order or an agreement between the parties. And one of those orders prohibits parties from transferring, hypothecating. Hypothecating means sort of hiding or disposing of any property without the written consent of the other party or an order of the court. So the answer to the question is probably not. You're probably not going to be able to change the beneficiaries on a will after a divorce is filed and served. And it would appear that Rick did that in whatever state they lived in. In California, that would be a major no-no, and would probably get set aside in the probate court. Which brings me to my next point. What happens when somebody dies during a divorce in California? Well, a divorce involves two married people, both who are living. If somebody dies, in general, the divorce would simply be dismissed. It would go away, and the assets of the parties would be dealt with either in the probate court or through non-probate means. For example, if they had a living trust, or if somebody severed the joint tenancy on their house, and you can do that in a divorce case. So, like if you're married and you're going through a divorce, and your house is in community property or joint tenancy with right of survivorship, there are certain things you can do to sever the joint tenancy and allow your interest to go to your heirs as opposed to going to your estranged spouse. If you have any questions or want to talk about that, please call me, 805-449-4290. Send me an email, post a comment, and I'll get back to you. Any questions that you have about California family law, please let me know. Some of you might be going through a difficult situation, and you might need some questions answered, and that's what I'm here for today. Also, I wrote a book a few years ago. Please feel free to order it. All you need to do is post your email address and your mailing address in the comment section, and I will get that book out to you as soon as possible. I can sign it for you. And that book is free. It's no risk to you. Has just a lot of really great information, practical information about what you should do during a divorce. Talks about how to choose a psychotherapist if you want to hire one. Talks about how to choose a good divorce attorney if you feel you need to have one. Some circumstances you may not need a divorce attorney. Sometimes, you might feel that you can do it yourself. And other times you may just need a little bit of help getting your paperwork done. That's what, and I'm here for that in case you need that. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. Once again, 805-449-4290. This is Jeffrey Hoffer. I'm a divorce and family law attorney coming at you here on a Saturday at 1:00 p.m. from Thousand Oaks, California. Pacific Standard Time. So anyway, let's get back to the Rick Ocasek, Paulina Poroskova issue, because it's really great. It's really important. Now, one of the things that Paulina talked about when she was interviewed was that she was financially illiterate. That's a very big lesson for people going through a divorce. It's very important that you find somebody, and your divorce attorney can find this person for you who can help you plan your future financially. Please do that, because the world of divorce is a little bit scary. People don't really know what their future is going to look like. So it's really important to have a plan. And if you plan out your future, and if you do your best and you have somebody guiding you, your future will come out a whole lot better. There was a commercial that came out several years ago that people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. So please find somebody, or if you need a referral, please contact me or your divorce attorney, and find out if you can have somebody plan your post-divorce life. Help you do that. Very important. Anyway, because the article talked about how Paulina was asking people to buy her groceries, and that's no way to be. She's in her 50s now, and it would appear that she failed to plan. If you have any questions about California family law or anything regarding anything I spoke about today, please feel free to post them in the comments section, or feel free to text me at 818-396-1105. You can also order a free copy of my book. My book is called Ending Your Marriage in California, and I will get you a free copy of it. It's available for sale on Amazon, but I'm happy to give it away. Again, just text your email address and your mailing address, and I'll be sure to get it out to you as soon as possible. If anybody has any input about anything I've talked about so far, please text me or at 818-396-1105, or post in the comments. I want to talk to you more about this. One thing about this divorce that Paulina and Rick Ocasek were going through was about a prenup. Apparently, Paulina said she regretted having one. Now, based on the article I read, I can't really tell why that would have benefited her, because it would appear that Rick was probably the better earner, probably had more assets than her. So why would she want to sign a prenuptial agreement? I'm going to cover that in my next episode next week, and I'm going to talk about what it takes to create a bulletproof prenuptial agreement. A lot of topics regarding California family law are important to know about, and it's important that you talk to a seasoned family law attorney about them. You could be in the middle of a marriage that may not suit you. You may not like it, but you're not ready to get divorced. So a postnuptial agreement might be something you might want to consider. And there are significant differences between a prenuptial agreement and a postnuptial agreement. Now, and when I come back and do my next show, I'm going to talk about those differences and how a postnuptial agreement can benefit you, but there are pitfalls to them, and it's really important that these are covered. So your postnuptial agreement will be upheld in case you have a contest over it in a divorce case later on. That's really important. Anyway, it is 1:25. I've been on the air now for 25 minutes. Kind of hoping that I can get some questions from anybody here. Text it to me at 818-396-1105, or post them in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer them. So, in the event there are no questions, I may go off the air a little bit early, but I'm going to definitely come back, and we're going to talk about prenuptial and postnuptial agreements in my next show, which will probably be next week sometime, and I will post on Facebook when that's going to be. Now, anyway, If you have any questions or comments regarding this show, please feel free to call 805-449-4290. Send me an email. My website is Hoffer, Hoffer, familylawfirm.com. Email is jeff@hofferfamilylawfirm.com. My office is located in Gore Hills, California. Talking to you from my house here in Thousand Oaks. I want to wish you all the very best. Have a great Saturday. Please feel free to contact me with questions or any any comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day and have a great rest of the weekend. Talk to you soon.